New 80s Revolution with Jason Nupp, a one-and-all show full of fun where anything can and does happen. Pickups, fan mail, toy reviews, camping with the New 80s Revolution Jr. Whatever the heck else does not fit into a specific category, Jason covers it right here, folks. And now, the host of the New 80s Revolution, Jason Nupp.
Jason Nupp, the New 80s Revolution, back down here in the cave for what I'm going to call another sort of rant, right? Another rant, but not an angry rant. Not anything like that. But even though the country is in a state of upheaval again. Anyway, I don't care about it. That's not what we come on here to talk about. I've been thinking a lot lately about a project that's not even we can't even call it a project. It's a massive undertaking, and it's a little bit out of my reach. But it's been something that's been on my mind it's been on my mind seriously for about a year or two. About a year. So I'll give you the idea, and then we'll talk about why I really want to do this. You guys have heard me talk before about obviously running out of space in this room. And as I look around, the room is closing in on me. It is starting to close in. This table is a big, kind of a big bulky item in the room. I'm probably gonna get rid of this, and so this will change what you see, where I sit and where I present shows. Might not be at this table anymore. I was thinking about putting, again, if you remember back in the when Warlock and I teamed up, I had a couch, more of like a love seat down here, and we did shows from the love seat with a coffee table and a TV. So I might bring a little couch down here again, and I mean little, like love seat little. But then that would kind of close the room off even more. So I don't know. Anyway, it all started with me running out of space down here. And we have an entire finished basement, and there is another whole room, but that's used by the children, and I can't take it. This is my corner. This is my cave. This is all I get. And I have been allowed to bring some of this upstairs. But it's still not the same. So what I thought was, I kept joking with people saying, well, I need a house, right? I need a whole nother house. I need a second house. And it was like, yeah, a second house. Yeah, okay. Next topic. And then like the idea, stuck with me more and more and more and more. And I want a second house. I want an 80s house. Because what I want to do is, and I'll have to rely on you guys for information about this. I almost want to turn this into more of like a documentary, almost like a nationwide concept. I want it to be a real show. And I don't know how to make that happen. I've seen, with the Home and Garden channel and the History channel and Travel channel, they get on these little niches. And I saw something like the Brady Bunch redid houses in Brady style, and I thought, well, what about an 80s house? Right, and then I was reading about the Christmas Story house that was purchased by a fan of the movie, and he, remodeled the Christmas Story house to look like the Christmas Story movie. he bought the house for like $99,000 and turned it into a profitable business. It's now, the Christmas Story Museum, and it's a tourist attraction, and so the concepts are out there, right? Well, I wanted to do an 80s house. And like I said, I wanted to tie in why I was doing it as well. It wasn't just like, hey, come look at this this nostalgic house, and there's no love behind it, and there's no feelings behind it, there's no history behind it. It's just a museum. But I wanted it to be like a documentary, where I talk about why I want to do this. So I don't know if any of you guys know about not fundraising, but I don't know. I Kickstarter. I would explore Kickstarter. I don't even know what that is. I don't. But I see projects getting started on Kickstarter. Basically, I would need to be able to buy the house, and I am not. You wouldn't buy an expensive large house, for an 80s house. You're going to buy a smaller house, preferably an older house that still has some of its 80s charm, where I wouldn't have to do a ton of over-the-top remodeling. I don't want any newer bathrooms. I don't want any newer kitchens. And usually I see those houses going for relatively cheap in comparison. I know this sounds lofty, and it is. It's lofty, and it's crazy. But anyway, here's the idea. I wanted to, and if the idea would be from start to finish, I transform a home into an 80s house from top to bottom, floor to ceiling, every single room. And I would really just, the show would be about me finding artifacts and finding designers that would make if I can't find, because I'm not really into sitting on, Goodwill or thrift store couches. I don't really want to lay on those, I'm good. I don't want a Goodwill couch. So you can't really find an 80s couch unless you go to Goodwill and you find, Grandma Sally's couch. But I don't want to sit where Grandma Sally, has sat or maybe died. So the show would be about connecting with designers who would make, an authentic 80s couch, maybe off of a pattern that I found from one of my old pictures, I almost wanted to recreate furniture that I had as a kid. But everything else would be authentic. Everything else would be official. There would be no recreations. Anything but the couch would be authentic 80s goods. And every single room, from the paint to the paneling to the ceilings, to the floor, the paint, the paneling, the floor, the carpet, the decor would be straight from the 80s, filled with products that existed in the 80s. Period. I'm talking everything would be straight from this particular decade. This house would have VCR. This house would have a console television. This house would have a landline on the wall with a cord. This house would have digital alarm clocks. Right? We'd be allowed a microwave. They came in, but I'd go out of my way, and this is the awesome part. I would go out of my way to scour a thrift store for a very big, bulky, early 80s microwave, right? That sat on the counter. You didn't hang it above your TV or above your stove. It sat on your counter because it was so huge and bulky and heavy. Everything, top to bottom, would be 80s. All right, so we'd have a living room. We'd have a kitchen. We'd have a couple of bedrooms. We'd have a family room of sorts. And it would be decked out in 80s. And, I'd have to either have custom carpeting made or some kind of a shaggy carpet or, that brown carpet that we saw in everybody's house in the 80s. And I even thought about, food, right? The kitchen would obviously have tons of 80s products. And there's some really good thrift stores out there. Savers locally is a really good thrift store for like kitchen stuff and electronics. And it would just be decked out in 80s stuff. And I even thought about like what would be in the cupboards and what would be in the refrigerator. There would there be any, if it didn't exist in the 80s, it wouldn't be in my fridge. I wouldn't be eating it, right? It would be straight up everything from the 80s, literally. And I saw something like this a while ago. There's something on YouTube. A guy lives in the 50s. He's got a 50s house, and he dresses like the 50s, and he acts like the 50s, and he his style, and that's. I'm not gonna live in the 80s. I just want a place to go that is just totally stepping back in time, and I try to do that with this room. Obviously, just focusing on the toys, and then I started to get into like some 80s stuff, I call it. That's my 80s stuff shelf. And as I get more of that stuff, I'm like, wow, this would look really good in a house. Like, this should be part of the house. Like, I'm about to buy something Friday that I can't wait to show you guys. I'll probably just surprise you. But it's a major electronic. And it's from the early 80s, early to mid 80s. And it's not a television. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece. And I'm practically stealing it for $40. Hoping that I can get it to work. It says it works, it powers on, but I got to do something else with it that'll make sense when I show it to you. But that item is gonna be big in here. It's gonna fill up more space, and it should go in a living room. It's part of. It sits next to the console television. So I don't know how to do this, and I don't know if it would. I know it would be interesting to you guys, and I wish that I could just get an opportunity to promote it and sell the idea, and really turn it into something huge. So basically, like I said, the show would go from me talking about why, everything I've done with you guys, talking about why this is important, looking at houses, purchasing the house, and then, redesigning the house and then filling the house. Obviously, this is a massive expense, to get decorators in there and carpenters and things like. I mean, it's huge. It's mind-blowingly huge to do. And that's why I think it would need backing. It would need like a network behind it. It would need this Kickstarter thing. Again, I don't know what Kickstarter is. I don't know how much money you can earn on Kickstarter. I have no idea. I could Google it, but I'm asking you guys. What is Kickstarter? How do you get enough to proceed with your project? And what's in it for the donators? What's in it for you guys or for the rest of the world who wants to see this? I don't know. And the reason why I think that it could happen if somebody would get behind it is, I think I told you a while ago that I had, this is like 3 years ago or so, the Travel Channel, History Channel reached out to me. And it was in the first year of the YouTube channel. The History Channel called me and said, we're doing a show called Collector's Cafe. And it's just it's all kinds of eclectic collections. And we saw your YouTube video and we want you to be on the show. So we did a phone interview. The next step, I was going to go to New York City and do like a face-to-face interview. And I was going to be on the show. And it died. It went away. It never happened. So I think Larry King was a part of it. He was like behind it somehow. I don't know. Like, you can Google it and find some like dead information about it. But that got me excited. Like, wow, this could, and I know this idea could be popular because it's niche-y and it's taking advantage of a decade that everybody is in love with, and it's nostalgic, and it's reality show crap, you know, and all these home shows and all this garbage on HGTV and DIY and all these shows, Flip It and Flop It and all this stupid crap that we shouldn't be watching. Apparently people do. So I think I would at least attract an entire generation of people to get behind this show. You know, you might remember like Jordan Hembrow, I think that's how you say his name, a couple of years ago had the toy hunter or whatever his name was, right? The History Channel or the Travel Channel, whatever it was, got behind that. Totally got behind it. All that guy did was go around and pick through people's attics and take their toys, right? That became a show. American Pickers has been huge, super fake, but huge for years. The auction show, whatever that's called, the storage auction show, has been huge for years. The Christmas Story house, that concept worked for them, right? The Brady houses on HGTV worked for them. This would work, but I don't know how to get it started. And let me talk quickly about the reason I want to do this. I need the feel, right? I need the feel. And what I mean is, I try so hard to recreate. And what I'm starting to realize, unfortunately, is that I can't get the feelings back, right? And I kind of realized that on Christmas, again, sadly, that this past Christmas, that, you know, Christmas morning was awesome, Christmas Eve was awesome, but the feeling wasn't the same. And I know it's not gonna be the same because I'm 44, right? And the world has changed and stuff has changed and our minds are full of stuff that they never were before. I get it, right? I get it's not gonna be the same. But I'm desperately searching for the feeling. And the closest that I come to the feeling is coming down here and being surrounded by all this stuff. But it's still not enough, you know? So I'm thinking, what if I had a whole house? What if the whole house and the you know, the amenities were back then. So I'd hook up an answering machine to my telephone. The cell phone wouldn't come with me to the 80s house. The telephone would come with me to the 80s house, and the answering machine. Now, the one exception that I would have to make is I'd have to have a Blu-ray player so that I could watch, or a DVD player so that I could watch my shows. Because another thing that triggered this thought going was, you know, I'm watching all these 80s shows on DVD, and I reviewed the A-Team with you, and I'm currently watching Magnum P.I. and MacGyver, and I watch an episode. I alternate nights, so one night it's MacGyver, one night it's Magnum P.I. I'm trying to speed it up so that I can get on to my other shows. I wanted the feeling so bad that I actually went and made, if you remember, I made like a 5-night or even a 7-night list of shows. And I was going to watch one show a night. And it was going to, you know, fall on the night that it aired originally because I'm the biggest dork in the world. But what happened was I realized that, you know, it would take me to the end of my life and beyond to finish watching all of these shows if I was only doing one episode a week. So I had to speed it up. So I binged the A-Team. You know, I only watched the A-Team, and now I'm only watching Magnum and MacGyver, and I'm getting through them faster so that I can move on to other shows. But while the shows are great, the feeling isn't there, right? I'm sitting in the middle of my modern house, looking at my 65-inch television that's hanging on a wall, and the feeling's not there. Right? I don't have the feeling. So I wanted to try to recreate the environment as best I could. And so the 80s house popped into my head. You know, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? Well, we need a house. And I'm not talking about a $150,000, $200,000 house. I'm talking about probably a $60,000 to $70,000, $80,000 house. because they're older. And, there are definitely some houses where nobody updated the bathroom and nobody updated the kitchen, and it's old, and I wouldn't have to do much. And so that's like the biggest cost. So, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? Is it just a pipe dream? Is it total fantasy? Am I going to have to this is it? This is my 80s room? I thought about bringing a couch down here and watching some of the shows down here. Maybe that would induce more of the feeling, an authentic 80s feel. But anyway, what do you think of the house idea? Give me some thoughts. Give me some, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? If any of you happen to work for the Discovery Channel or the Travel Channel, let me know. Get me in touch with some people. Let's do this. Let's make a show about an 80s house. A guy that buys an 80s house. A guy that's trapped in his childhood, trapped in the past, goes and buys a freaking house and turns it into an 80s museum. So that's that. That's the idea that I have about the 80s house. And I'm coming back 2 videos tonight. I want to show you something that I got in the mail today. We're going to do it as a separate video. I'll be right back. Thanks for... Give me some ideas. Give me some feedback. I'll talk to you soon. Good night now.